centers on issues of racism, white guilt, whiteness, black pain, without actually unpacking what this is about. What we're interested in this series, we're not denying the reality of all of those other issues that are important in these conversations. We are aware, we're conscious of them, but what we are more interested in today and in the next 2 weeks is what is it like when black people and white people engage in real dialogue. By that I mean with a sense of openness. What happens when people open themselves to the other, when people of different racial groups, from different sides of the racial divide, and from different sides of our history, what happens when they open themselves to the possibilities that might evolve from engaging with another? That is what we're interested in today. What are the difficulties? What are the challenges? What are the walls that build up? We've asked these people who are going to be leading us in these conversations to really go to the depths of those moments and share with us what that looks like. Because we feel that unless we understand what that looks like, then we will never transcend these stereotypes of, that are more judgmental than creative about our engagement. That's what we're looking at today. So today, the people who are going to start the conversation are Mosa, Phadi, and Wale. They have lived together in an apartment, not together as in they are a pair, but they have lived together as colleagues studying their PhDs, and they learned a lot from that experience. It was an experience that forced them to encounter all these complications of race relations. And so the conversation today and in the next 2 weeks are really about those real issues. We often avoid these issues by pushing the other away. These people who are going to be leading us in these conversations have actually confronted these issues rather than steered away from them. So let us welcome Kim and Mosa. So, by way of starting the conversation, I would like to ask you, or in turn, to share with us, how did you meet?
Okay, do you want to start?
Okay, I'll start. I'll tell some of it and then pass it on. So, I had just finished my master's at UCT and then moved to Johannesburg with my boyfriend, and then found work with the Center for Sociological Research, where Mosa was also a researcher. My boyfriend and I then broke up, and I sensed Mosa was looking to move out of home, and we were remembering this earlier. We'd probably known each other for 2 months, and we're driving in the car, and Mosa actually remembers this memory a bit better than I, so I'm going to pass on now to the driving in the car.
So we just came back from a meeting. So we had a colleague of ours, Claire, which I've been working with for the past, also white, I guess, like if it matters. We just came back from a meeting and we were driving to her house, and Kim, so we were sitting awkwardly in the car. That time it was like after, I wasn't a good driver by then. I think I've mastered that part a bit better these days. And she's sitting in my car and she's telling me like she's having boyfriend problems and she's looking for a place to stay. And I'm saying actually I'm tired of commuting from my house, which is in Kagiso, which is the west of Johannesburg. It's a township, it's a black township. And it's like it's actually becoming tedious for me to travel every day because of the traffic and so on. So, and she said to me, okay, what do you think about finding a place together? I don't know, out of impulse, because we were in Hillbrow, you know, like, so it was awkward. So we're waiting for this traffic in Hillbrow. I don't know if you're familiar with Johannesburg. So we're looking at Hillbrow, the side is Parkview, and we just sitting there and like, okay, why not? But then, okay, we drove off. I think we just said, why not? And I just left it at that because I don't know what to say after that. And we came back, and the next day she was serious about it. It was like, oh my God. Now, I have to find a place, this white woman. And 2 weeks later, it's like, oh, I found a place. And actually she looked, I didn't look, I didn't do much effort actually in that process. And she did all the effort. She found the place in Melville. And he's like, oh, I found a place and so on. And he's still willing to move. For a second, I think I had like, my heart just stopped for a second. What does it actually mean now? Like, it's real. Then we had to move in like a month from then. And then I told my mother, like, I'm moving to a place. I didn't tell her, like, I'm moving to a place and I'm moving with somebody, like my colleague. I didn't say anything else. And it's like, okay, because of traffic and so on. And for a while, she didn't know I moved in with a white person. I don't know, I just couldn't tell my mother for a while. It was a difficult conversation to have with her, primarily because of the history of my family. I grew up, my mother having like a very serious, because her brother, my uncle, died from exile, and she was missing he was missing for a very long time. So my mother has this huge, and worked as a domestic worker, so there was always this thing about white people and distrust of white people and what they do. So I couldn't actually have that conversation until later. I think 3 months after living with Kim, actually, in that process. Yeah.
Do you know why that makes me emotional?
Okay, don't cry now. What's wrong with you? Okay, I can tell you this. This is what I learned about white people, and I told her yesterday. They get flustered about things that we don't get flustered about, and I learned that since I lived with her. They get flustered, hey, about extraordinary things, and I'm thinking, what is the problem? And clearly, this is the problem. Now she's crying. I'm not sure. What does it mean? Like,
so my tears are because I didn't realize how what a difficult decision it was for you to move in with me. And with all of that, with all of those struggles, for you to still see something in me and go, like, I trust you, I don't know you, this is difficult, it could cause issues with my family, but I somehow trust you enough to go, yes, you know, I will move in with you. And so I think I was touched by that. I am also a bit of an over-emotional person. And we were talking about it yesterday, and we were talking about how there does seem to be a kind of white woman neurosis or something that is kind of seen first in me and then as she goes along. And maybe it also has to do with white guilt, and we were talking about what it means to be a conscious white and how, yeah, there can sometimes be that overcompensation, that over-emotionality, that moving things from a place of kind of just being an ordinariness to a heightened sense of emotionality, you know. But, you know, it's part of it, and we always have to hold that. The everyday reality, it's just you and me talking about our life, but also we're talking about race and the different experiences and the difficulties in that, and our different ways of dealing with that, and maybe you with humor and me with emotion, perhaps.
Yeah, and I do think, I mean, like, Pamela was asking what was the most difficult part of living together. I think the first time when I told my friends, so I have black friends in university, never like had, my undergrad was like,
usually people say I have a white friend.
Yeah, I have, like, I grew up at Wale University, so it was a very Afrikaner university. So black people clustered together, at that time for a very long time. So you grew, the connection or the networks that you had was more with the black students around because, the culture there was not very conducive for us for quite some time. And also because of the language and also because of the tradition and the cultural elements of the RAL, which was quite stifling. So every single black person from undergrad to postgrad, we knew each other, because of the circumstances and the culture there. And also then, when I first time told them, I remember sitting with Phadi and Lungelo, Lungelo as well, very closely. He's like, oh, I moved him with a person, I live in Mosa Street now in Melville, and so on. And it's like, oh, okay, well, we should come, It's like, sure, okay, you should come. Then, okay, they come, and Kim happens to be there, and she appears. And for the first time, I think, in that process as well, then you start seeing your friends, like, hey, you're living with a white person, what's wrong with you? Like, okay, what happened? Why? Like that awkwardness of your blackness for the first time in a very long time outside the structure of the university, outside the everyday of studying at RAW in those days in my undergrad, outside my mom's everyday encounters with whiteness and what it meant for her and the oppression that comes with it, or seeing people in normal spaces, where your blackness again, it's questioned by your own people, like what led you to that moment, what led you to think about it, is it possible? And that also created another complexity, and because people ask, right, so how is it like? It's like, I think I'm worried about rent, and we had this landlord, like, who will always overcharge our electricity, and we always like complain, and we hated the dog there. And also there were also everyday things, like worrying about like the bill of the electricity and how we're gonna pay for it, and negotiating food, for example. Who do we buy together? What does she like? What does it mean in that space? And do I buy from Woolies? Hey, white people in Woolies. And or do I buy from Pick and Pay? So on, those were some of the conversations that we had to engage ourselves with as well. And also every day being asked about that.
Yeah. So I want to, before you say something, Kim, I just want us to kind of, stay with this reaction from your friends, from your black friends. I said that statements earlier because usually people say, I have white friends, or white people say, I have black friends. Yeah. But you say,